time when John was writing this gospel, Greek philosophy and Greek thinkers were having a great impact on Christians or Christian thinking. Now, the Greeks divided reality into two parts. One was physical reality and the other was spiritual reality. And they divided the temporal and the eternal, and they divided the sacred and the secular. But physical things can be spiritual, which is something very important that we must make a note of. Now, there was a philosopher by name Plato who said the spiritual is more real than the physical. And there was a philosopher by name Aristotle who said that the physical reality is more real than the spiritual. So, for these Greek thinkers, Jesus couldn't be both God as well as man. So, the Greek philosophers developed a number of variations from the truth. But the important question is, which side is or was Jesus on? Was he on the physical side or was he on the spiritual side? So some said Jesus was more divine and some said Jesus was more human. Now, some said Jesus was partly human and some said Jesus was partly divine. But the truth is, Jesus is fully divine as well as fully human. So, Jesus reveals God to man and Jesus reconciles man to God. And he could do neither of these if he wasn't fully divine and fully human. So this is a truth that we must hold on to, that we come across in the Gospel of John. So John says he knew Jesus for 63 years. And so he says Jesus was totally human and Jesus was totally divine. So in John's Gospel, the emphasis of the truth is about Jesus' full humanity and Jesus' full divinity. Now, verses like Jesus wept, and we read about Jesus being hungry and thirsty. So that shows his human side. Also, Jesus had to pray because he was fully human, that he had to depend on God for his help, spiritual help, and of course, spiritual help. But the main emphasis in John is on the divinity of Jesus. So, the false belief was that Jesus was slightly different from being fully divine. Now, one of the results was that Jesus was on the side of the creatures rather than the Creator. So that is a clear distortion of the truth. We will come to that later. But how does John make his case about Jesus' full divinity? It's very interesting that John makes his case very clear about Jesus' full divinity by using the magic number 7. And in John's Gospel, John writes about 7 witnesses, 7 works, and 7 words of Jesus that we will look at a little later. But John uses this number 7 to make his point about Jesus' full divinity, because according to Hebrew thinking, the number 7 stood for perfection, and so it was a perfect number, the number 7. So there are 3 perfect evidences for Jesus' perfect divinity in the form of the 7 witnesses, the 7 works, and the 7 words, which we will study about later in John's Gospel. May God bless this study for us. Amen.